Testing, 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 testing.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad you all are here and we're spending this evening together. I'm Victor Wilson, Senior Director of Priority Initiatives and Development for the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville campus. I'm an alum of the University of Arkansas, a 1985 graduate, and the proud father of two daughters who are recent graduates of the University of Arkansas. Most people refer to their college or university as their alma mater, translated meaning nourishing mother, implying a reverence and loyalty for the nurturing qualities of their school, a motherly quality. To be quite honest, I didn't feel that way when I graduated in 1985. So often, I've said, sometimes jokingly, that I left Fayetteville kind of like Lot, with no intention of looking back or coming back. However, in the early 1990s, a group of alums got together and formed the Black Alumni Society. I received an invitation from this group to return to the University of Arkansas. I was a bit reluctant, hesitant. I kind of jokingly said, I didn't lose anything in Fayetteville. Why would I go back? And as it turned out, based on the camaraderie, unity, and the mission that this group had for our university, they had a vision to see our university become a more inclusive, supportive university. After visiting with them, and we saw Greek shows, folk doing their steps and all the memories coming back from those days in school, I started reflecting on the best of our university. And I said, why should I sit out and not engage with my university when I hold the power to at least make some small changes, which quite often are big changes for a student? Small support can be quite big for students. And it was with that in mind that I established 2 scholarships to give back to students at the university to help underrepresented students. And also began giving financially to support women's basketball, men's basketball, and our football team. But more important than financial support, I got involved and got engaged with my university. I ended up serving on 8 to 10 different boards and societies while living in Arlington, Texas. And I thought that was a tall feat, simply driving through Oklahoma several times a year just to come back up here for meetings and events. Well, over the past several years, our university has began to really focus on helping to establish a sense of belonging for our underrepresented, often under-supported students. And tonight, you'll have an opportunity to hear from some of our dynamic and esteemed leaders on our campus about some of the things we're doing, some of the ways we're attempting to make our university a more inclusive, more equitable, and more diverse university. At the end of this presentation, we've set aside some time for questions and answers, and I hope you'll stay and voice yours and participate in that. Our speakers tonight are Dr. Yvette Murphy Irby, Vice Chancellor of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Mark Power, Vice Chancellor for the Division of Advancement. DQ Fields. DQ is the Dean and Associate Vice President of Bumpers College of Agricultural and Food Sciences. Dorita Ratcliffe Dawkins, Assistant Vice Chancellor and Deputy Athletics Director, Senior Women's Administrator. Now, up first tonight is Dr. Yvette Murphy Irby. She's Professor of Social Work. She's the Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the University of Arkansas, and the thought leader and inspiration behind the university's Ideals Institute. That's an acronym for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Access, Leadership, and Strategic Support. Ideals serves as a regional and national training resource for creating more diverse, inclusive, and equitable organizational cultures and climates. She has held other leadership roles within the university, including Associate Dean in the College of Arts and Sciences, Director of the School of Social Work, and Interim Director for the African and African American Studies Program. She's a strong champion of collaboration and a believer in the power of collective impact. Yvette believes that when it comes to advancing the University of Arkansas's diversity, equity, and inclusion priorities, there is a sense of urgency to support the student, faculty, and staff. Please welcome our esteemed leader, Dr. Yvette Murphy Irby.
Thank you, Victor. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming out to join us for such an important and essential conversation. By nature, I'm a very reflective person, and I've come to learn that if we look close enough and reflect, there is so much that we can learn from our life experiences, the good, the bad, as well as the challenging. They all teach us something. As a young child, I lost my mother to breast cancer, but I had two amazing grandmothers that stepped in and shaped my life and even the work that I do today in DEI. Their influence was so strong that I focused my entire doctoral study and PhD work on grandmothers raising grandchildren. Although my father raised my brother and me as a single parent, my grandmothers were there every single step of the way. And as you can tell, they had a profound influence in my life. Mama Janie and Mama Murphy taught me a lot about community. They taught me about activism. They taught me about change and leaning into your role and making a meaningful difference. They would say, it's not just important to make a difference, Yvette, you've got to make a meaningful difference. Through their example, I witnessed the power of engaging complementary roles toward a common goal. You see, while my grandmothers were very similar in their beliefs about the importance of community and the importance of empowerment and uplift, and while they both were committed to being champions for change, they did so in very diverse ways. Mama Janie was an activist, an entrepreneur, an all-out trailblazer. Her business, Fennell's Flower Shop, that carried the motto I still remember today, "Say it with flowers," was one of the only two women-owned black businesses in Wilmington, North Carolina in the mid-1930s. And for many years, she was the only florist for about an 80-mile radius to service black people. As such, for over 50 years, the shop, as we called it and the community called it, was the hub of the community. Mama Murphy, on the other hand, was a more behind-the-scenes servant and inspirational leader. Unless you were a fellow member of the Seventh-day Adventist church that she attended, then you knew she was out front leading all the way. However, she was most known for carrying important messages of uplift by quietly, diligently and consistently modeling principles of community, modeling principles of belief, and modeling principles of uplift. This empowerment was instrumental in the lives of many people in our community, and she helped people to know, to feel, and to be reminded that they were lovable, that they were capable, that they were worthwhile, and that they were powerful, even when the day-to-day experiences, the societal messages, the actions, and the hurt words of others were telling them otherwise. The leadership, guidance, and support that both of my grandmothers displayed so eloquently were essential in creating community and facilitating change in my hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina. Together, my grandmothers were powerful difference makers, and together, they created a dynamic and centric force that drove change and moved mountains. From them, I came to learn many things that drove my work and my perspective about transformation and change. And that perspective informs what I think about our campus DEI priority. From them, I came to learn the power of something that I only much later obtained the words to express. From Mama Janie and Mama Murphy, I learned the power of collective impact. The power of collective impact. This is essential work of DEI, and collective impact is so important to move in this work. DEI cannot be done in a silo. It takes many voices, it takes diverse abilities, it takes varied contributions from folks all along the spectrum. So that is why our DEI strategy is intentional to focus on community engagement. That is why in hosting tonight's event, we titled it Together Forward. You see, we not only welcome and desire, but we desperately need to be in partnership, in collaboration, and in community with one another. That is, if we expect to thrive, and even in some instances, if we expect to survive as a leading Research One campus. And also, if we expect as a state to become that place where people desire to work, live, and go to college. We have to make these things happen if we expect people to see us as that place and to be highlighted and recognized for our innovation, for our economic power, and for our culture and climate where all feel a sense of belonging and welcoming. For us to attain such grand and audacious goals and aspirations as a campus, as a state, as a community, we absolutely must come at this thing together. You see, we all have a role to play. And guess what? No one role is any more significant than the other. The significance is in whether we as individuals, whether we as families, communities, organizations, institutions, and corporations are leaning fully, intentionally, and steady into our respective and intersectional roles. So, I ask you tonight, what is the role that you can play? As a stakeholder, an alum, a friend, a parent, or perhaps a current or former parent of a student, a resident of the state of Arkansas, a leader here in Arkansas or beyond. It doesn't matter whether we're talking here or across the world. We all have one thing in common, and that one thing is the hardcore fact, that a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture and climate is essential to the ability of our state to thrive, and therefore essential to all of our collective well-being. We all have a stake in the U of A's success, and likewise, the U of A has a stake in the state of Arkansas' success. We must collectively embrace this essential work as a journey, not a destination. So what do I mean when I say that? I mean that we must understand that this work is ever evolving. It's simpler and it's grander simultaneously. And it's not about getting to one place or completing a list of items that we can check off and say, yes, we accomplished that. But it's more. It's about ongoing and transformational and real institutional change. As you will hear from me and others tonight, we are moving along that journey. We are implementing innovative programming. We are enhancing our infrastructure and supports. We are increasing our need-based funding and resources. And we are attaining record-breaking enrollment and annual giving goals. We are increasing our outreach and engagement efforts. We are driving change and having influence at the national level. We are engaging in expansive grant funding efforts, and we are steadily working to create a culture and climate where all feel a sense of belonging and where all are supported to not just make it, to not just get by, but to thrive. We are aiming for folks to thrive. Now I ask you, are we there yet? Absolutely not. No way. Are we even close to getting to that place where we can really celebrate and say, yes, we're doing this thing? Of course not. But yes, we are working hard and we are moving forward. As I said, we're experiencing record enrollment at a time when other institutions are seeing major decline. In addition to an overall record enrollment of almost 27,000 students this year, for the first time, our enrollment numbers of historically underrepresented student groups, including Asian American, Black, Latina, Hispanic, and Indigenous student groups, are simultaneously up at record levels. We also understand that the financial gap that remains even after someone receives financial aid is the most prominent barrier to post-secondary education for many of our low and moderate income students. So what have we done? We have increased our outreach and need-based funding with a $5 million investment. And that investment allows us to help fill that gap. It also allows us to help students that are transferring from community colleges in the U of A system to come to the U of A. We are trying to close that gap and take away those barriers. Over the past 3 years, the Division for DEI has collaborated with members in colleges all across our campus to secure over $7 million in externally funded grants. These grants have been designed to enhance mentoring, to enhance support, academic support, all kinds of support, but also to provide fellowships and stipends to students that then can help close those gaps. In some instances, the stipends have been enough to cover the entire tuition and for the student to then have some money to live on. Because when you come to college, it's not just about paying the tuition. There's a bigger, grander experience that we have to make sure that everyone can tap in, not just some, but all. So we are really excited about that. We are implementing community-based outreach efforts to enhance recruitment in communities across the state where we, honestly, traditionally have not been as visible as we need to be. And we are gathering data right now to propose a recommendation to our faculty senate that will allow the valedictorian of every Arkansas high school automatic admission to the U of A, regardless of score, with some scholarship funding. Yes, we are working hard and we are moving forward. We are conducting institutional assessments, and for the first time in our campus history, we will launch a campus-wide, meaning faculty, staff, students, and eventually we're going to bring in alumni as well, a campus climate survey, a DEI survey. And that survey will allow us to track and monitor our climate and our progress and update our actions and efforts accordingly. Yes, we are working hard and we are moving forward. We are enhancing our infrastructure to ensure that our focus on belonging is spread all across the U of A campus and embedded in all of our activities. Just last week, our campus revealed the Unity House, a dedicated shared space for underrepresented fraternities and sororities that do not have the membership to support a house like the many other sororities and fraternities on our campus. In addition, we are being intentional to enhance the representation of historically underrepresented groups in spaces and places, such as tailgates in the prominent Alumni Alley and present at special events and in awards and recognitions. This year, we're so excited about that. This year, the number of faculty and staff of color in senior leadership positions, I'm talking assistant deans, directors, and up, the number of faculty and staff in those positions has increased to an all-time high, with the chancellor being at the top of that increase. Yes, we are working hard and we are moving forward. We have come to understand that you absolutely cannot talk about research, innovation, economic development, or even excellence in academia without thinking strategically about DEI. Our campus is engaged in grant-funded and community-engaged partnership efforts that have yielded over $194.7 million to support research innovation, to drive economic development and spur entrepreneurship and collaboration, along with continued gifts in the hundreds of millions to promote excellence in the art and to make art accessible to all, including building a state-of-the-art arts district. And just this week, the Ideals Institute within the Division for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion received a $1.8 million gift from the Walmart Foundation and the Walton Family Foundation to support nonprofits in building their capacity to serve members of BIPOC communities, meaning Black, Indigenous, people of color communities. We are excited. That is fresh news, hot off the press. DEI is a major component embedded in the fabric of everything that we do at the U of A. And we are certainly being intentional to make sure it's embedded in all of our massive efforts happening across the campus. Yes, we are moving forward in very intentional, strategic, transformational, high-level, and grander ways, as well as in very simpler and day-to-day ways. But what I really appreciate is that our movement forward is not driven solely at the central level. What I really appreciate is that our movement forward is not driven solely by one office. It's not just the division of DEI thing. What I really appreciate is that our movement forward is about our faculty. It's about our staff, our alumni, our students, our community, and corporate partners. It's about you and me. It's about us all working together. Our movement forward is not just about programs, those are important, but it's also about policies and institutional support and institutional change. To me, that is important. And to me, those are the things that we are focusing on as priorities. It's also about the fact that we're shaping experiences and we're putting in resources strategically to address that need for everyone to not just make it, to not just get by, to not just limp to graduation, but for everyone to have that type of experience that will allow them to thrive. What is essential to me is that our movement forward is not just about change on the campus, but change within our region, within our state, nation, and yeah, I'm gonna say it, even the world. This progress forward is happening because of that thing. You know that thing that Mama Janie and Mama Murphy modeled for me. That special sauce that leads to transformational change in communities. This progress forward is happening because of the collective impact of efforts happening all across our campus and in partnership with all of you, with our broader community, with our broader stakeholders, and with our state. So we are really excited about that. This progress forward is happening because we are intentional to ensure DEI is embedded in all that we say and in all that we do, in both simpler and grander ways. And those ways span every aspect and every level of our campus. As you will now hear from 3 of our colleagues, our DEI efforts do range the entire campus. And they range from advancement and our development efforts to what's happening in our colleges and our auxiliary units all across campus, to even our athletics. We are intentional to make it happen all places, right? And we're working together to make that happen. So I now turn it back over to Victor to introduce the first of three colleagues that will share a few highlights from their various areas. Thank you.
As you can tell from the enthusiasm that Yvette brings, and you'll learn from the other speakers that come up, the work that we're doing to build a more inclusive campus is something that we see as a high priority. When I stood up earlier today, I told you my title is Senior Director of Priority Initiatives and Development. I don't think there's any more pressing priority than to make this campus a campus where everyone feels a sense of belonging, so that it is their campus. You didn't just attend the University of Arkansas and graduate from the University of Arkansas. We want you to know that you are the University of Arkansas. And that is work that we have to do, and there's much work to be done. I work with everyone across our campus, every college, every unit. In addition to that, I serve as a mentor for underrepresented male students and staff members. And I work with recruiting to help improve the diversity on our campus and also to help improve retention and graduation rates. It is important to me, though, to say that I work most closely with Dr. Yvette Murphy Irby in the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and with Mark Power. He is the Vice Chancellor of Advancement, which includes development and alumni. Now, Mark is a native of Fayetteville, Arkansas. He serves as our Vice Chancellor of Advancement. He has more than 2 decades of higher education experience. As Vice Chancellor, he oversees university development, which is fundraising, the Alumni Association, and the Office of Donor Engagement. He leads university-wide fundraising activities, including our most recently completed capital campaign known as Campaign Arkansas. Under his direction, the university's colleges, schools, units raised more than $1,449,000,000. I'm gonna say it again because that ain't no small amount of money. They raised over $1,449,000,000. This funding goes to support students, faculty, staff, programs, and capital improvements. Now, although he graduated from the University of Texas at Arlington, he has dedicated his career and passion to the University of Arkansas, guiding outstanding professionals, students, and faculty in fundraising to better support campus initiatives. Welcome, Vice Chancellor Mark Power.
Well, thank you very much, Victor. I appreciate that introduction. That was very kind. It is nice to hear about the campaign and hear that number. But I tell you what, it took a lot of support, a lot of our alumni and friends coming together to make that a reality, and so many of you here tonight. So thank you for joining us on this evening. I'm sitting over here watching the sunset, and I'm thinking, what could be better than to be here talking about the University of Arkansas and being with you all here tonight. So I do want to take a minute and thank Victor. Victor is doing such a great job for the university, and I'm so excited that he decided to join our team. So thank you so much, Victor. I also have 2 other colleagues with me here tonight who I'd like to introduce. They're sitting back here, and if they'll just give a little wave. We have Mary Kate Harrison and Emily Money, and they both work and live here in Central Arkansas. And they are on our advancement team, and they do a wonderful job for the university. So thank you for being with us tonight. So again, I just appreciate this opportunity to say a few words this evening. And as Dr. Murphy Irby mentioned, and I tell you, I don't want to follow her again. That was an amazing speech. Thank you. I tell you what, that was incredible. But diversity, equity, and inclusion at the university really have never been more important than it is today. And I certainly believe this to be true in the Division of Advancement. You know, our team has a great responsibility, and we know it. Our jobs are to be out front, visiting with our alumni and our friends, our parents, stakeholders, and others, and talking about the wonderful things happening on campus. We're blessed to work with so many wonderful people in our everyday life who make such a difference on our campus and are so passionate about the University of Arkansas. You know, however, I've been at the university now 20 years, and I've been in my position now about 5 years. And I've noticed that we have not done as good a job in our efforts with diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly in our team, but also our outward engagement. And it's something that we are now committed to doing a much better job of. We want to lead and hire more diverse teams, and we want to engage and reach more diverse alumni and friends. That is absolutely our commitment. And our ultimate goal is to have a much more diverse and inclusive culture of philanthropy on campus that seeks new opportunities and transforms lives to the betterment of our state and our nation. So we have had a couple of key initiatives, a couple of key objectives that I do want to share with you tonight that we think will strengthen the campus efforts. The first area, of course, is our fundraising and engagement. And as Dr. Murphy-Irby mentioned, we've had some great deal of success, and even recently through her efforts and Victor's efforts and the entire team of securing some significant financial resources, and we know how critical that is. So we'll continue to coordinate our fundraising efforts in these areas, supporting our students and our faculty. And as Dr. Murphy-Irby mentioned as well, the importance of areas such as need-based scholarships and other innovative programs on campus. So during the last capital campaign, we launched a scholarship program called Advance Arkansas, and we raised nearly $8 million. And these scholarships were geared toward first-generation Arkansans that had financial need. And we are already seeing a number of students who are receiving this important financial support. We have to continue to have efforts like this, as well as partner more closely with our overall student success initiatives. And we are going to be building and we'll be dedicating in January a new Student Success Center on campus that I think is going to make a huge, huge impact. Providing faculty support is critical as well. I think endowments and building and continuing to build our endowment plays a vital role in this area. You know, the Arkansas Alumni Association does such a great job, and they'll continue to provide services, financial support for our current and future alumni societies and student organizations as it's related to their mission of increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then for just a minute, I want to look inward at our team. The reality, and many colleges and universities across the country struggle with this, but our team is simply not diverse enough. It's not. And in advancement, we recently established a talent development program to intentionally gauge more diverse team members. And with that, we want to be able to help with their career planning and engaging them in very unique and specific ways. But we also are interested in growing our own. We'd like to reestablish a student internship program for students, underrepresented students, to come and learn about the alumni and development professions. It's actually not a bad job to go ask people for money. It's really not. And there's many, many careers that can be had in these areas, and what a difference it can make. And lastly, we want to continue to support Yvette's team, our colleges and schools with their efforts, our Ideals Institute. We want to be that partner. We want for the campus to say advancement is out front in helping in these key areas. So our commitment is very strong, and we're very excited about the road ahead. So thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions you might have a little bit later. So I'll turn it back over to Victor. Thank you.
Mark, thank you so much for that. And I will repeat myself and say that you all can tell from the people coming up here speaking that we're headed in a different direction. And if it may have appeared to you in the past that this was our direction, then consider it now a direction that we're headed in, that we are putting on warp speed or superpower, because we're going to make this university a different university than what it was when some of you who were here many years ago attended. This is going to be an inclusive university. Now, the next person that's going to come up and speak with you is someone who has a passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that is Dean D.Q. Fields. He's the Dean and Senior Associate Vice President of Academics for the Bumpers College of Agricultural, Food, and Life Sciences, and the Division of Agriculture. He has successfully established multidisciplinary collaborations to attract financial support that enhance the student experiences in life sciences and agriculture. His research focuses on quantifying the impact of agribusiness on state, regional, and national economics. He is passionate about food marketing and logistics in the United States, the Caribbean, Jamaica, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Trinidad. Now, although he gained his PhD at LSU, we are happy to have him as a lead hog and Razorback. So please join me in welcome Dean D.Q. Fields. Outstanding. You know, I was about to say preach. You did say it. I appreciate that. And you are absolutely right. We've got to get the inside of it right first. Well, we're going to continue this evening, and I want to bring up what a person that I call a superstar, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you about her. Dorita Dawkins. She has over 25 years experience in collegiate athletics. She's Assistant Vice Chancellor and Chief Diversity Officer for the Department of Athletics. She's also Deputy Athletics Director, Senior Woman Administrator. We know she's a top gun and trailblazer because on December 31st, 2004, she became the first female and youngest person in program history to be selected as Director of Athletics at Kentucky State University. I'm going to pause. Throughout her professional career, Dorita has served as a mentor and resource for women and ethnic minorities among student athletes, coaches, and administrators throughout the country. She has served on numerous committees, both on campus, at the conference level, and nationally. She currently serves on the SEC Racial Equity and Social Justice Council and the NCAA Women's Basketball Committee. Please welcome Top Gun and Trailblazer, Dorita Dawkins.
Thanks, Victor. Good evening, everybody. I was wondering, as this went along, I'm listening to everybody. I'm like, why did Yvette put me last? Like, I thought, she liked me. But divinely, it is where I'm supposed to be. As I listened to comments Mark made, and I wrote some notes, and I listened to comments Yvette made, and I wrote another note, and then DQ said some things, and I was back there being a little amen corner, because I was like, I hear you, bro. There are some statistics I could give you about what's going on in athletics, how many student athletes graduating, what our staff looks like, etc. But what I want to tell you is what DQ said about getting it right on the inside is where we are. When George Floyd was murdered in May of 2020, some things happened in our athletic department at the University of Arkansas. We had conversations with each other that we hadn't had before. Our athletic director, who, people's giving a lot of credit because he, hired this person or hired that person, had the courage to say, I don't know what to do. I need somebody to tell me what to do. And he stepped back and let us do what we needed to do. He stepped back and let us have the conversations we needed to have. So we had a series of conversations. How many of you all are familiar with Emmanuel Acho's Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man? So some of us had watched that, including our director of mental health and performance. So we started having